So there's a lot of you who sent me a video of someone. I'm guessing it's High Boy. So apparently he was discussing the expiration of Hanni's visa because she's not a Korean citizen. She was being sponsored or is being sponsored by Adore, and it's going to expire. So there are speculations on what's going high shelling, on what's happening, what is going to happen, or the visa status of Hanni. Since it is expiring, she needs a sponsor to stay because she's not a Korean citizen. Now, Adore actually announced that they are continuing the processing of her visa because for in their frame of mind she's still under the contract of Adore. So a lot of people brought up the fact that she's going to be in a compromising situation, meaning Hanni might be in a compromising situation. She does need a sponsor to be able to stay in the country and work legally. But if Adore sponsors her, then she is admitting that she's still under contract with Adore. If she doesn't sign the papers, the sponsorship, then her visa is going to expire. She's going to be an illegal, and she can be deported, or she can just automatically leave the country. Those are the options. Now, it so happened that I know a little about the subject primarily because I inquired. We were entertaining the thought. I still am entertaining the thought of like having a more permanent status in South Korea. So in the last, I've spoken with some lawyers and just went through my options and what I can actually do to be able to stay in South Korea and work, uh, and like be a permanent resident basically, and enjoy certain be able have the freedom to do certain things like work, do business and stuff like that. So I am in no way, as you know this by now. I did not watch the video of High Boy primarily because I don't want to watch any of the videos of the people that you continuously and often mention because I don't want to be insecure about what I'm doing. So I'm just supporting them from afar, but I haven't watched what he has posted. So this is not really a response to what he posted. This is I'm just going through the options based on what was discussed to me when I personally made an inquiry. Okay. Um, so the one thing is that a work visa, she's in E6 visa. That's what it is called. E as in echo and then number six. She's an E6 visa. This is a visa that is given to people who's going to do any kind of income generating work in South Korea, but you do need a sponsor. So she is being sponsored by Adore. And if it expires without uh, any sponsorship from anybody else, then there is no grace period. So it is always advised that if you are on E6 visa, then you need to process it before it actually expires. Now, before I continue, just want to make sure that you understand I'm not a lawyer. I just learned about these things because I inquired about the process and consulted, sorry for the wrong spelling, I consulted a lawyer to go through the different options. This should serve as an initial research and it is not comprehensive. Okay, so this is just the opening of the many information that you could find out if you do your own research. Now, continuing, what are the consequences if she overstays? She will be fined, she may be deported, and there might be a re entry ban. And that is the same thing with in the US. Like if you overstay, if you have, like, for example, a visitor's visa and then you overstay, you can't get out of the country. Well, you can get out of the country, but if you do, you're probably not going to be able to come back if you overstay once. Okay, everything that I'm going to be saying is available. The initial explanation, it's available in Korea's official website. Okay. Phaedra said, I like that you don't watch. That makes this channel so unique. I just don't want to be insecure. But thank you. All right. So, one of the options that she can explore, or anybody for that matter, you can explore so that you can stay legally in Korea and do business there, is the Immigrant Investors Scheme for Public Business, or IISPB. The IISPB actually grants resident status, or they call it the F2 visa. So it allows you to have any kind of economic activities to foreigners making certain amount of investment. And it allows, if you keep your investment there for 5 years, you can go from resident to permanent resident. However, as the explanation said, you do need to make a certain amount of investment, and we're going to discuss how much that is. Okay, so if you're willing to invest in the country, then you can get a a status, and you can do any kind of business, you can work. Minimum required investment amount is 500 million Korean won. This is according to their website right now. It changes, but right now it is at 500 million Korean won, or 365,000 US dollars. That's a lot of money. But that's a money that Hanni has, right? Because she was paid 3.5 million last year. So that's an amount that you can come up with. Now, aside from the $365,000 that you need to invest in South Korea, you do need to have a separate 300 million Korean won, or $219,000, that is in your home country or in other countries. Now, if you are older than 55 years old, your minimum investment will become 300 million. Okay, so again, if you have 365,000 that you're willing to invest in Korea, and or and if you have 300 million in your possession that is invested in your home country or other countries, then you can have a a resident visa under their IISPB program, and that will allow you to do any kind of economic activity in Korea. Okay. Now, there are two types of investments that you can make with that 365,000. It can be principal guaranteed and interest-free investment. So this is any kind of investment that will not earn you any kind of interest. So it's just there. You'll just park your money there. Foreign investors deposit the minimum required money in the public fund, which the Korea Development Bank, commissioned by the Ministry of Justice, operates. An investment principal only is returned after 5 years. So you're going to park your money there. Nothing's going to happen after 5 years. You get exactly what you invested. Okay, so that is the principal guaranteed interest-free investment. The other is fixed deposit like products without interest. So, sorry, these are samples of what a principal guaranteed interest free investment assets are. So, non interest savings account. So, if you park your money in a bank in South Korea, then that's considered a non principal guaranteed investment. Second is insurance based investment. There are principal protected. So the if you invested 365, that's what you're going to get, no interest. These are structured to return to full premium investment without interest. Okay. You can also do like hedge, like you can invest in assets that are considered a hedge, like gold or something like that. Okay, another type is is risk-based investments. So these are investments that can lose your money but also earn you money. So samples of that. So just as an explanation, again, you can find this in the website of Korea. Foreign investors make investments of the minimum required money in the development projects carried forward in less developed regions in the country, designated and notified by the Minister of Justice through consultation with relevant ministry of land, infrastructure, and transport. Now, and then these are some of the areas that they encourage you to invest in. This actually has a subcategory, which is the sorry, the immigrant investor scheme for real estate, which is kind of similar. So instead of public business, you can do real estate. Okay. Um, so you can just buy a land or a property, and if you hold it for 5 years, then they convert you to an to a permanent resident status, and then eventually you can become a citizen. So you can invest in stocks or real estate. Um, you will be able to get an F2 visa or long-term residency visa. So if you have an F2 visa, you have employment flexibility. So you have the freedom to work within Korea, you have the freedom to earn money, um, including business operations, employment, uh, and different things. So if you have this, if you're a resident, a long-term resident, you can work in South Korea. An F5 is when after 5 years, if your money is still there, you can actually convert that into a permanent residency. So, for example, if you buy a house, for as long as you keep that house for 5 years, then you can convert that into a permanent residency visa, and then you can sell the house if you want. You get unlimited employment rights. So it's like being a Korean. It's just that you can't vote because you're not a citizen yet. And then eventually you can convert that into a Korean citizen, Korean visa, a Korean passport. You can also automatically become a permanent resident if you invest 3 billion Korean won or more. So that will grant you permanent residency immediately for as long as you maintain your 3 billion won in South Korea for at least 5 years. But after 5 years, you can withdraw your investments. So those are her options. There's also another one. It's called the D10 or a job hunter's visa, but that's not a very, very popular option. It also does not guarantee, it is not guaranteed that you're going to be approved for that visa. But for Henny, because she has enough money, she has she was paid 3.5 million last year. She's probably going to get paid again this year. Then she has the money to actually invest something in South Korea. She can buy a house, she can park her money in a bank, and then apply for a permanent residency. So I don't think it's going to be, of course, it's, I mean, it's not, unless she really wanted to park her money in South Korea, it won't be an ideal situation. But given that she's very much interested in continuing her career with New Jeans, I don't think it's going to be a problem for her to park her money, like park 500,000 in South Korea. So, Ophelia is asking, does she own a property? I don't know, but that's an option that she can, as I've mentioned, as I've discussed, that's an option that she can actually uh, explore. She can just buy a property, or she can just park her money. Can she work as an entertainer though? Yes. If you are a resident, you can work as an entertainer. If you set up a business, for example, if you've set up a company, so if you set up a company, then the initial capital that you put in the company has to meet the minimum amount. So let's just say 500,000. She puts 500,000. She puts up an entertainment company. Yeah, that will allow her to do any kind of entertainment related activities. But instead of her, Hanny, getting paid, it's the company who's going to get paid, and she's employed by her company. I hope that makes sense. But yes, you're allowed to work any job, legal job. Proof, Elizabeth Besco, proof Adore continues to work on behalf of New Jeans. If court questions Adore actions all positive, productive, we need to see how many bullet points in NJ demands are denied or approved. Halina said, hello from Florida. It's so late, almost midnight, but I will stay as long as I appreciate it, Halina or Halina. Ray Aviles, yeah, I don't have 2 million lying around for that option. No, you don't, I don't, but she does. She was paid 3.5 million last year. So she can definitely make the residency visa requirement. She can park 350 million, sorry, half a million dollars, sorry, half, yeah, $500,000. She can park it there and she will have a residency visa. Then she can do any kind of work that she wants to do. Okay, she can stay in Korea, but she can't do activities without an E6. She can if she can get the entertainer, sorry, the residency visa, which I just discussed. So if you invest, just as a recap, if you invest half a million, 365,000 in South Korea, either in a, you just want to park your money there, or you want to um, put up a business or buy a property, and then you have another $160,000 somewhere invested in your own country, or you own a property worth that much, then you can, in fact, get a residency visa. The residency visa will allow you to work in South Korea or conduct business. Okay. Can you apply for a residency of a third country if you already have dual citizenship of two other countries? Yes. You can be a permanent resident of several countries. Yeah. Even India doesn't have one. Jessica said the issue is that this was covered in the news article. She needs a sponsor. If she wants to just continue on in her E6 visa, then she will need a sponsor. But if she puts up a company or invests half a million, yeah, half a million or more, half a million or more, then she can get a residency visa, and that will allow her to work. If you go into Korean immigration website in your, I mean, I'm pretty sure wherever you are, even if you're not in the US, you just go to immigration and then go to their residency visa or visa options. You will see this. I did not invent this. When I spoke with the lawyer, I already had this information because it was already in their website. And then I just asked the lawyer for like details, because usually the devil is in the details, right? And there's a lot of devils in the details. But it's a lot of devils. It's like a hell. It's like hell there. But that is the bottom line. There's a lot of intricacies, of course, but the bottom line is, if you've got the money, you're willing to park it in South Korea, you're willing to invest, you can get a residency visa. It's not, of course, you're going to say that, oh, it's not that easy of a process. Of course, it's not that easy of a process. Nothing is, right? But again, the bottom line is, if she has the money to do it, and she does, then she can get a residency visa. She's not eligible as long as she has an E6 and works as an entertainer in SK. I don't know the context of that statement, but that is what Living Sweetly said. Clouds and Coffee. I think it's interesting that there has been no response about this topic from Hanni or NJ's representation. Vi Hart said, I didn't think it would be hard for her to handle her visa issue. It's not, it's well, as I've said, there's always like, the process is never easy, but it is just easier if you have money, which she does, right? Living Sweetly said the litigation is putting the visa and delaying the process, time Hanny doesn't have. Um, there are certain rules in immigration where it states that for as long as you already filed, um, you can stay already. So it's not easy. Again, I'm not trying to make it appear as if it's an easy process, that all she has to do is go to the bank, withdraw, I mean, deposit her money, go to the immigration department and get her visa. Of course, it's not that easy, right? Nothing is. And it shouldn't be. I mean, of course, it's your country, and of course you need to protect it. You need to make sure that everybody who's staying there and living in your country is safe and whatever. So it isn't an easy process, but it is an option that she can pursue. I'm not going to pretend that I know the like step by step procedure. I'm not a lawyer. I don't want to get into that space, but again, it is an option that she can pursue. Uh, No, not if she is under a contract. You can apply for a change of your visa. So once it expires, which is and it's about to expire, she can apply to change her visa. So you can go from E6 to D10. D10 is the job hunter's visa. You can go from E6 to D10 into something else. The same way you can go from E6 to F2. Again, not an easy process. Like a lot of you are saying that it's not. Of course, it's not easy. So, but it is a process that she can explore. It's an option. Okay, that is the entire point. It's an option, and then she just needs to work it out with the lawyer and how they're going to make that happen. Soul said, Miss Fairlane, can you confirm the options you mentioned could apply to this person specifically, or it depends on other circumstances in general? There's always a circumstance that you need to consider, but it is an option that she can pursue. It's for as long as you have the money, they will not restrict you from investing in their country. She's got 3.5 million. If she's willing to park half a million in South Korea, she can get a residency visa. If she can get a residency visa, she can get an investor's visa, which is kind of the same thing. Why Hybe Adore so lenient with new jeans? Why can't they just be a little bit more aggressive? The one thing you don't want to do is make just to hurry. You don't want to hurry. You want to make sure that your ducks are in a row, in a perfect row, perfect straight row. So that means you want to make sure that even before you file a case, that this case is in the bag. So you have all your evidence that it's airtight, that this case is airtight, so you don't lose. That's one. Second is that you also have to consider, we've discussed how important public image is in Korea. You definitely don't want to rock the boat too hard at the moment because everything is so hot, everyone's attention is on them, everyone's eyes is on them. So they also want to manage public image the right way. So just going on an attack mode won't help them on so many levels. Again, they're just going to make haste, which could cause them to make errors. So what they are trying to do is make sure that their assets are covered. Right? We call it the CYA, cover your own ass, cover your ass. So you want to make sure that you're doing everything right, so that when time comes for you to go to court, everything is airtight. That there is all bases are covered. Um, that fine print. Is it true that she needed to leave by the 13th if she didn't plan to extend the current visa status? And if so, could that pose a problem for her to attempt to apply for anything in the future? So, for example, if the visa expires on the 13th, she has to be leaving the country by the 13th if she has not planned to extend her visa. So, usually, you will want to do something already before you extend your visa. So when you apply for an extension or for a change of status, you do not wait for it to expire and then apply. Because then that is going to create problems with you. Problems for you. So you want to either change your status before it expires or extend before it expires. So the answer to your question is, if she didn't do anything, if she's just sitting and waiting for her visa to expire, then on the 13th, yeah, she needs to leave. But I'm sure that she's already doing something about it. I'm just going to be very, very foolish of her to not be doing something about it by now. Um, would Vernon have a dual citizenship or only an American one? So I don't think South Korea honors dual citizenship, but I don't know that. Don't quote me on that. Ray, I'm not sure, but I think he only has a Korean now. Okay. All elite memes. Would her still using the visa from Adore mean that the contract is not terminated? Correct. Correct. And Adore is standing by her. They're saying no, she's still under contract. So so her still using the visa from Adore doesn't really come in conflict with what Adore is saying, right? It comes in conflict with what she said. That the contract is terminated, but Adore is saying no, it's terminated. We went to court. We told the court that it is an that the contract is still valid. The E6 is a minimum of 3 or longer. The processing is slow. She will need Adore to sign off on her application to work for another company. That's according to Living Sweetly. Okay, let's see if there's any question or reaction. Let's see. Directly from Adore, our exclusive contract with New Jeans is still valid, so we are processing the documents for visa extension accordingly. To them, they're still in contract, so they are handling it. Um, all right. A court of public opinion can make things harder, so slow is better. So thank you. I think people don't understand. You don't need to let a visa expire to apply for an alternate unless SK does not allow that at all once she applies. No, you have to apply for an extension or a change in status before your current visa expires. You don't wait for it to expire and then apply. If you wait for it to expire and then apply, you're already an illegal. Don't allow yourself to ever be an illegal immigrant. So it's because it's going to make things harder for you. So yeah, you apply for an extension or you apply for a change of status while it is still valid. You don't wait for it to expire and then apply. Okay, so um isn't this issue, so for example, like you all know that I wasn't born and raised here. I'm just an immigrant. So before my green card expired, I changed my status. I applied for naturalization. So that's how you do it. While still valid, you apply. Once you get approved, the old status is no longer in place. So I have a funny story. So I went to my final interview, and there was an army, by the way, who was also getting interviewed for naturalization. So, and we just kind of realized that we're both armies because I had Jimin and Jungkook, and this the key ring. It's the same messenger bag that I had when I saw J Hope when I ran away with all the seven key rings, the seven characters of BT21. So I had that, and she had it as well. But I think she had like Jungkook, Jimin, and someone else. She had three, and she was like, "Hey, army!" But of course, we couldn't really talk because we didn't want to make any noise, and there were other people there. But anyway, so I was getting interviewed. So I got interviewed, and after the interview, the immigration officer said, "Okay, I'm going to have you sworn in now, or just you can go down, and then they'll swear you in now." And so I went down, and so they said that, "Okay, you got to give me your green card because you're changing your status." And like, I'm traveling tomorrow, and it's going to take time before I get my passport, my American passport, my US passport. And they were like, well, we're gonna have to reschedule. You're gonna have to make a choice. Either you don't push through with your trip, or we're going to delay your swearing in. And I was like, why? Why? I mean, why can't you just allow me to have my green card and then I'll give it to you when I come back? And then that's when they had to explain to me that, well, because you changed your status, now your status is different now. Once you swear in, you're not a green card holder. You're an American citizen, so you can't. So that's how it works. Even if you have an existing status, if you change your status, you can do so even while your current status is still ongoing. They just change it right away. I hope I made sense. Hanni can't apply for a different visa until the court rules the exclusive contract is invalid. Um, while the contract is so her current visa, as far as I understand, the release is expiring January. I think it's January. It is expiring. So the contract, however, as far as I understand, has an automatic renewal. right? So the, the what they what sorry what hi sorry what Adore is doing is extending her visa, but the contract is ongoing. So she so Adore is processing her visa. However, it does not really impede her right to change her visa to something else. So as I've said, if she wants to become a resident, that's an an option she can explore. Is it easy? No. Nothing is easy, but that's an option she can explore. Resident visas don't have the same restrictions as dual citizen. Uh Resident visa does not have the same restriction as a dual citizen. I'm not sure that, I don't know. I have absolutely no knowledge of that. Adore will collect every breach of contract. Why her case is being reviewed? It takes longer than the 3 months she has left with. Yeah, but then Adore is saying that she's processing her visa. So if she signs the sponsorship, then she will have to. Then there's no problem. If she signs the sponsorship, she's confirming that she's still under Adore. Um, that makes the Adore's case easy. I was just typing that question to you. Okay, how long does it take to get your residency? Ah, you mean through the route that I was talking about? It can be up to 6 months. It can be up to 6 months, but it can be fast as well. It all usually the bigger your investment is, the faster your processing is. Okay. We have to remember that Hybe is so new compared to the big three, they need to tread carefully. New Jeans' participation in the impeachment protest did end up putting a target on their back from far right people who support Yoon. They will put extra effort to getting Hanni out of South Korea. So yeah, a lot of people, that is a valid argument. So a lot of people, so if you're not a citizen of the country, uh you can't impede in the processing of the political events of the country. However, they do have freedom of expression, so they can probably fight that this is about freedom of expression. But I don't know. I'm not going to pretend that I know the legality of what she did. All I can say is that I understand why the fans that are from the far right are trying to use it against her. Although I don't know if it's going to be a valid one or not. David of KPC said Koreans called Nujin's queens on their side. I wonder if that's true. Okay, so someone actually sent me a question like, can she switch from residency, permanent residency, um, while she's still under contract with Adore? I don't know the answer. Probably she can. She will apply for a change in status. Will she have to be released? Um, Again, I don't know. But she try to understand where she's coming from. She's insisting that the contract is not anymore valid, that the contract is terminated already, right? And then Adore is insisting that it is valid. Okay, so in her mind there is no more contract. So in her mind what she can fight for is that I can now shift to residency because I am now under contract, if it requires that she be released from her contract. um but the entire legality of that, the procedure, I don't know. I'm as I've said, what I presented is just an option she can explore. I am not saying that this is a foolproof smooth process for her to continue staying in South Korea and continue um working as an entertainer. All right, just want to make it clear, this is an option she can explore, but the case is complicated, so a lawyer will have to sort it out for her. Obviously, there are complications with her saying that the contract is now terminated, Adore saying that it is in place, the contract is still valid, so her visa is still valid, and that she the making her visa still valid. So, but like the procedure of all of these things, I don't know. But this is an option she can explore. That is all I'm saying. Okay. Phaedra said, I'm actually surprised we got here from Mama Roach tipping that domino from CEO struggles down to now. Visa speculation on one of the members that dropped a contract because they said, from what I understand, the E6 visa requirements are to have an exclusive contract for a foreign idol to stay for a year and work as an idol under specified agency. The new visa may not be approved. There's always a possibility that a new visa application will not be approved. Always. Even if everything is so smooth, that is always a possibility. Now, the main contention is, so now that we know that a resident visa, if she has enough money to invest, is an option she can explore. The question is, does she actually need to be released by the other company for her to explore this, for her to be allowed to have a residency visa? And the answer is I don't know. That is the one thing. And then let's take into consideration, as I've mentioned, that there are Adore is saying the contract is valid, therefore the visa is valid, and she's saying it's not valid anymore. The contract is terminated already. So I'm not sure. Okay. However, they are still continuing to fulfill the activities that have been pre-scheduled. Um, okay, let's see. Too much speculation. Yes. We don't know the details of all her contract. We don't know the details of how they're actually going about it. I'm sure there are I'm pretty sure she has a legal representative at this stage. It would be foolish of her to not have any kind of legal representation. So they're probably already taking care of it. They have some sort of an arrangement with Adore or whatever, and that's probably why she's not really talking, right? She's her legal team is probably taking care of it. The whole problem with her insisting that her contract is not valid is what she brought issue to the surface. You have 14 days from the term to change her sponsor, which is now past date. Maybe she already has a new sponsor. I don't know. So yeah, again, this is just a route that she can take, right? This is just a route she can explore. Maybe she's already exploring this route, and that the application is already on, and when the application is there, you can stay. She's been going in and out of the country, so there's a visa that she's using, obviously.